Hello everyone, this is the finale of What If Naruto was exiled after he brought Sasuke back, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Tazuna's house. Naruto and Mika were outside waiting for Anko. Tsunade meanwhile was looking at the bridge builder and wondering if a finger flick to the forehead would K him for the S he pulled. You can't just leave. Tazuna whined. You lied. Tsunade said. You're lucky we brought you home, but we do not have to stay. You'd let us fend for ourselves. Tsunami asked. Yes, we're not a charity and your father lied. My team isn't equipped for a siege and the number of ninja Gato probably has on his payroll. But you took out those 3. That was sheer luck on mine and my students' parts. It won't last. You said bandits and that was it. Gato is a major crime boss with connections to the mainland. He has an almost unlimited supply of mercenaries. This is a job for Anbu Black Ops, not Genin. Tazuna was trying to think of something, anything to get the ninja to stay. Sensei, she's coming around. Hinata called from upstairs where her and Sakura were dealing with the girl that Mika had caught. Tsunade turned and left the room. Tazuna cursed. Can they just leave? Tsunami asked her father. He nodded. She's right. I lied and paid for a lower mission. They could have left me on the road, but they brought me home as we'd agreed upon. From the stairs Inari had been listening. At least they're smart enough to know that you can't take on Gato and live. Tazuna shook his head. His grandson didn't see it. The ninja weren't afraid. They were underprepared. All because of my lie. XX. Upstairs. Where is Zabuza-sama? Tsunade said, entering the room. The girl was bound and glaring at Sakura, who had shoved her back to the mat. My student spared your life and Zabuza asked for us to take care of you. Said you were innocent. Haku slumped then. All the fight went out of her knowing that the words had come from Zabuza. Aren't we staying? Hinata asked as Tsunade grabbed a pack. I've been arguing with myself since we fought Zabuza. We don't know what forces Gato has, and to stay as we are, underarmed and outmanned would be S. Sakura nodded at this. We were prepared for a C-rank mission against bandits and maybe a low-level nin that flushed out of its village. She looked at her sensei, who nodded for her to continue. We're not equipped to deal with an entrenched enemy with the resources of Gato. Sakura pulled out the bingo book and opened it up. Gato is a member of the Ares Syndicate. He's got a high bounty on his head, not because he's scared but because he's a crime boss and has an army of mercenaries, samurai and low-level missing nin that work for him. Hinata read the entry. Haku nodded. He hired us because the ninja he has on his staff failed twice to K the bridge builder. She said in a low voice. Tsunade paused at this. Do you know how many people are with him on the island? They're SKS. Haku nodded at this and Tsunade smirked. Get Naruto in here, she told Hinata, who ran out the door and down the stairs. I've got an idea, Tsunade said to Sakura and looked at Haku. Now, let's see about getting you on your feet. XX. Mikahamaru was balancing a kunai on his fingertip when Anko finally arrived. She handed him a scroll. I took the time to gather the traps you and your brother left that weren't detonated. Thanks, Sensei, he said, making a note to return half to his brother later. Bar-chan's got a powwow going upstairs. I was told to wait for you. Let's go. They entered the house and passed the family talking in the kitchen. They ignored the comments from the boy and his mother and took the stairs 2 at a time. A rap on the door and they entered to see Haku sitting up wrapped in a blanket. Naruto was leaning against the wall by the window while Hinata and Sakura sat on either side of Haku and Tsunade was in a chair. Seal the room, she ordered, and Anko's hands sped through the seals and she touched the walls, applying the privacy and security jutsu. We've got an hour, she said. Tsunade nodded. All right Haku, one more time, she said, and the revealed young woman spoke of everything she'd taken in while at Gato's with Zabuza. XX. An hour passed and when the door opened, the ninja of Konoha trooped down the stairs. Haku was wearing a mix of Hinata's and Anko's uniforms, as her had been trashed by the traps when she'd been captured. Please, Tazuna said, meeting him at the bottom of the stairs. Don't leave us to fend for ourselves. Tsunade's face remained blank. Sakura, her pink-haired student, stepped forward. Take Haku and Anko, map the town. See what we're working with. Yes, Lady Tsunade, she said, and left with Anko and Haku following. You're going to help? Tazuna asked, his voice filled with hope. We're going to see what the situation is, Tsunade said. Mika, Hinata set up the tents, looking over her shoulder. You could stay here, Tsunami offered. Tsunade shook her head. Thanks for the offer, but we'd prefer not to trap ourselves, she said, thinking of the mission her brother had been on that cost him his life. But you are staying, Tazuna said. For now, Tsunade said. XX. Sakura looked around. The village was the epitome of poverty. The merchants that were in business overcharged drastically for the basic staples. The people looked like they hadn't had a good meal in a long time. She saw Anko was making marks on a map she was drawing. And you say Gato's men don't come here unless it's to collect? Haku nodded. She looked sadly at the village. Her and Zabuza had avoided it, and now seeing it up close she felt bad for the decisions her mentor had chosen that ignored the suffering of people like this. What are we going to do? Haku asked. Sakura looked around. Set up a clinic first. Many of these people need medical care. Anko made a note. Naruto will need to do a walkthrough to see what's defensible. Sakura nodded. Haku listened. We could use Gato's route from his mansion to here as a bottle N and use it to thin him down, she said. Show me, Anko ordered. XX. Mika shook his head as he watched his brother and Hinata. You know, you two, I'd get these set up faster by myself. Both blinked and blushed as they had spent more time flirting than setting up the camp and tents. Sorry, they echoed. Hinata went to get something from the packs and made an eep. That had the brothers there and blinking. What the hell are they doing here? Naruto asked, seeing the two fox cubs in the pack looking back at them with big innocent expressions. Mika sighed. Bar-chan's gonna K us. Hinata picked up the fox with blonde markings. I don't think that innocent expression will appease Lady Tsunade ire. Yes, the fox cubs were female, and it was something that the boys had been very careful on not telling their mother and Lady Tsunade. It was a silent agreement they'd made the morning they appeared. They let their mothers and everyone else assume that the foxes were male. Hinata knew and Naruto bet a small mountain of ramen that his brother had told Sakura. Come here, Maya, Mika called to the red-furred fox with silver markings. She climbed out of the bag and trotted over to her master. Her belly was low and her tail nearly dragged on the ground. I'm not going to yell, but you were both told that this might not have been safe, Mika said, and Naruto nodded even as his eyes watched Aya being cuddled by Hinata. Maya made a small yip and Mika sighed as he picked her up. If Bar-chan sees either of you, you're on your own, as I will deny you being here. Maya yipped again and Mika smirked even as he held her. Since his and Naruto's birthday, the foxes managed to be around without being seen. Add in the fact that he and Naruto seemed to understand them worried their mother. Yeah, I know, Mika said to the fox in his arms as he carried her to his tent. I'm a big softie. Maya made a sound of agreement as he put her in his tent. We have a new girl here, so be careful. XX. Anko smiled evilly after seeing the road from Gato's mansion to the village. She also made a quick sketch of the bridge. Oh, this is gonna be a turkey shoot, she said. And he refuses to use another route, she asked Haku. The dark-haired girl nodded. Surrounded by over 100 mercenaries, he has little to fear here. Time to change that, Anko said with a very serpentine grin. I'm telling you, it would be a mile of death and destruction, Anko said as she showed Mika and Naruto the road. Just think, a mile of prime king ground. Mika looked at his brother who was grinning. Go ahead. I'll head in and help Bar-chan with setting up the clinic. Sakura-chan said these people need it badly. Naruto nodded as he and Anko went back to planning mass destruction of a very bad person. We'll join you once we have something sketched out. Explosives. Lots of explosives, Anko said, and the boys shared looks and grins at how well they understood their second sensei. Have fun destroying the evil overlord, Mika said as he sauntered away. He's really not into the destruction thing, is he? Anko asked. Naruto smiled. Nah, he likes pranks, but his heart is in healing and helping others. That's fine. I'm more of the weapons of mass destruction and he likes putting things together. So alike and so different. Anko said. Naruto grinned. Now, let's talk about bouncing explosives. Anko's laugh would chill any who came upon the pair for some time to come. XX. Next, an elderly woman came to the table where Sakura was seated and began to give her the basic examination. And you've had this pain for how long? A couple of months now. Hinata, Sakura called. Take her to the tent so Lady Tsunade can help her. 3 tents were set up and Sakura was doing basic diagnostics with Hinata. The more serious conditions were given to Tsunade and Mika, with the last tent for patients that would need longer-term care. She looked at the villagers lined up and sighed, knowing that this was bad. Mika came out of his tent. Musoba needs to be monitored, he said, taking off the surgical scrubs and putting them in the bin. I fixed her appendix and took care of the gallstones and kidney breach. Sakura nodded as she went to put the woman in post-op. We're going to burn through everything you brought at this rate. Mika nodded. These people haven't had medical care since Gato came to the island and KPED the doctor and destroyed the hospital. Mika sighed as he looked at the long line still waiting. We're going to need to send for supplies and help from Konoha. It'll have to be after Anko and Naruto destroy Gato. Both teens turned to see Tsunade coming out of her medical tent. A lot of kidney problems, she said. Not to mention other minor problems that balloon up as there is no care. Tsunade sighed. They've been doing this for hours already. How are the supplies, Sakura? We're running low on everything, Lady Tsunade. We're out of blood packs and sutures, and bandages are gone with the last patient. The pink-haired girl said. She looked at the Sannin. What are we going to do? Tsunade sighed. We'll have to turn them away until the battle is done. Mika didn't look happy. What if Haku, Sakura and I make a run to the nearest trade town? Tsunade shook her head. Too dangerous right now. It's best if we keep close together. We'll need all of us for Anko and Naruto's plan to work. Anko had reported to Tsunade of what her and Naruto would need to do. Right now the blonde was using cage buncheons to plant the traps and explosives with Anko. Mika had offered to help, but then he saw the number of patients and his brother waved him off with an understanding smile. Send the rest home, Sakura, but take the names and information. Tsunade told the pink-haired girl. When she left, Tsunade looked at her godson and smiled. You did really well today, she said, putting a hand on his shoulder. Does it ever feel like it's enough? Mika asked. No, just know you've done your best and I will always be proud of you. Mika looked at the villagers that were leaving. But why does it feel like a failure still? Tsunade put an arm around his shoulders and pulled him into a one-armed hug. Part of being a doctor, I'm afraid. The pair stood there as Tsunade comforted her godson as he told her of the little boy in tent 3 that wouldn't see the end of the week. XX. Naruto smiled at Anko when the last of his shadow clones popped and fed him the information of the set traps. You're right, Anko-sensei, this will be fun. Anko grinned as she looked over the road. And we've got a day to rest as Gato comes to the village to collect his taxes. Both shared a very feral grin at the mass destruction that would take place then. And we sweep up the leftovers, Naruto said. Hell yeah, Anko said, pumping her fist in the air. Leave a pair of buncheon to watch the road, and you can go spend time with your girlfriend. Naruto sputtered as Anko leapt away, laughing while teasing him about what the quiet ones can do, getting the blonde to sputter and turn shades of red that he didn't know was possible with blood still inside the body. XX. Haku watched as Sakura seemed to be undecided as she kept looking out the window of Tazuna's house where she could see Mika sitting with the fox kits. Tsunade had not been happy to see the little furballs as she called them. Sakura wondered about them as well. I mean, if they came from Mika and Naruto, shouldn't they have been male? I mean, from what Kushina-sama says, the QB was male. Sakura shook her head as she smiled as Mika rockhoused with the fox kits. He's a pure soul, she said. Sakura nodded at this without looking away. He and Naruto really aren't meant for the life of ninja, are they? Haku asked. No, I think Mika would be happy working at the hospital, and Naruto, well, he wants to follow in his father's footsteps. Sakura smiled as she thought of her friends and their paths in life, and she shuddered in thought at what her own parents had planned for her, using control seals and making her into a spy and weapon for Danzo. If it hadn't been for her friendship to Mika, she hated to think what she would have been like. You're lucky to have a nice boyfriend, Haku was saying. What? Sakura said, turning to look at the dark-haired girl. Oh, no, He's just one of my best friends, Sakura said, thinking of all the teasing Ino had given her over the years. Really? Haku asked with disbelief. Sakura nodded at this and her inner self yelled at her for being so stupid. Sakura ignored it however, but at the same time if she just made a huge mistake. XX. Aya-chan, Maya-chan, sit. Micah said while laughing as he was tackled once again by the pair of vixens. Aya gave a playful yip while Maya butted her head against his chest. You two are absolutely terrible, Micah said with a smile as he scratched Maya behind the ears and Aya under her chin. Bar-chan was not happy you two sneaked along. And we did leave you with Car-san. Don't you think she's going to worry about the two of you missing? Both kits gave soft whines and tried to look pathetic. Bar-chan said she's sending a slug as soon as possible not only to Gigi, but to let Mom know. Micah sighed at the thought of how long it would take for the Hokage to mobilize a medical squad and supplies. By the end of the week, and you know Mom will be here with them. Got that right. Micah turned to see Naruto come out of the woods looking like he'd been through the grinder. What hit you? Anko and I were training a bit. She's coming still. He gestured back the way he'd come and they could hear Anko swearing about annoying energetic brats. Both brothers laughed as Naruto scooped up Maya. Hey pretty one, he said hugging the fox to him. Where's Hinata? Naruto asked. She's at the clinic doing a couple hours. Sakura, Haku and I are on rotation for 4-hour shifts with her. Naruto nodded at this. How bad is it? Bad. We burned through nearly all the medical supplies we brought except everyone's personal med packs. Naruto nodded at this. Gato's got to go down. Anko says when he comes for his weekly taxes that Tazuna told us about. For the next 10 minutes Naruto explained the traps to his brother who grinned. This will be worse than that trap we pulled on Uncle O and Kakashi that time during the prank war. Naruto grinned as well. Yeah, we aren't using paint and stink bombs. Naruto looked down. We knew this was possible when we decided to be ninja. Micah said softly while holding Aya. I know, but, Naruto looked towards the house for a moment. Haku believed she was just a tool, and that's how many people see ninja. Then we make our own path, like Mom, Ero-sanin and Bar-chan. Micah said. Naruto nodded. We protect the weak, keep the peace. And forge our own path. Something passed between the brothers and the two foxes shared a look and nodded as if agreeing on something unsaid. XX. What are you ninja doing? Tazuna asked Tsunade that night. She'd sent the genin to bed and was sitting up outside the house nursing a small bottle of sake. Besides the clinic I've got the others setting up ambush sites and looking into Gato's guards. Tazuna looked at her. I hired you to protect me, he said, and Tsunade looked at him, her eyes cold. Which we have done, Tsunade said. I expect you to provide protection to me while I have my crew work on the bridge, he said before heading inside. I keep wondering why we stay to help people like this, Tsunade muttered, sipping the sake and finding it tasted like ash in her mouth as she considered pulling her team out of here. Definitely charging them for a low S rank now. I'll let Sensei give them an itemized list for all the supplies we've used and our medical care. If this is the thanks we're getting for helping. Tsunade sat well into the night thinking of what was to come in the days ahead. Line 'em up, brat, Anko said as she watched the blonde shadow clones arming themselves with spears, bows and kunai. She turned to see Micah working on something with a couple of clones as well. What the hell is that? Ballista, Micah said. Siege weapon. And what will that do? Anko asked. Naruto and Micah shared a look. Well, with the launches we stretched out, we'll be launching things from frag bombs to explosives to gas and stink bombs. Naruto explained, and Anko looked to see the clones by the bands of rubber between trees. And this? Anko prompted. Well, the clones are making spears for launching, Micah said. They'll send several bolts down the road, and with the traps it will make avoiding these a dangerous choice. I thought you weren't going to help, Anko questioned. Micah shrugged. Not much I can do in the clinic, we're out of supplies. Bar-chan's got Sakura, Hinata and Haku on rotation. He sighed. Tomorrow, gonna be a lot of blood spilled. XX. So, Haku, Tsunade said, sitting and watching the three girls checking patients. When the pale-skinned girl looked up, Tsunade continued, I've seen you watching my godson. Haku froze, as did Sakura. Hinata saw both girls and turned her head, hiding her smile. She'd warned Sakura about it before when Ino had teased her. I have been. Haku finally admitted, writing down the patient's pulse and heartbeat on the chart before turning to look at Tsunade, who had a raised eyebrow. He's single, or so I've been told. She looked across the room, as did Tsunade, to see Sakura focusing on her patient very intently. Really? Tsunade said, the surprise at this shocking her. XX. Anko grinned at the pair. Naruto and his brother shared looks, then looked once more at Anko, who was still grinning. After several moments her grin faltered. Fine, you think of something better, she said, crossing her arms. Naruto shook his head. You're thinking too little. Yeah, we think in the broader term, Micah said. But it's still a good idea, right? Anko asked. The twins shared a look. Well, Naruto said. Nah, Micah said. That didn't work too well. How about? Nah, we don't have the time or the tools for that. Naruto countered. How about? Will you two cut that out? Anko snapped. Micah and Naruto looked at her and said at the same time, what? XX. Tsunade sent Hinata and Haku back to Tazuna's house. She looked at Sakura, who pretended to be sterilizing homemade bandages. Mind telling me what that was about? I don't know what you mean, Lady Tsunade, Sakura said as she folded more bandages after they'd been dried. Fine, I'll spell it out for you, Tsunade said, turning Sakura around physically. Why did you tell Haku that Mikahamaru is single? Because he is, Sakura said, not meeting her mentor's gaze. And what have you been doing all this time? Tsunade asked. I've been his friend, Sakura said. Bulls. Sakura looked up at her mentor's choice of words. Wah. I said bulls. Anyone can see how he feels about you and you about him, so why this charade? Because he's a Namikaze and I am from a merchant family that was nothing more than traitors to Konoha, Sakura said. He will need to marry, most likely for political reasons. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard you say, Tsunade said. But then again, if you are willing to give up on my godson for a bull's reason, perhaps it's best if you weren't his girlfriend, because I would hate for you to abandon him when it came down to the wire. Sakura looked crushed at what Tsunade was saying. Haku might not be from a major clan, but with her I at least know she wouldn't fail to stand up for my godson. Sakura fled the tent and Tsunade sighed, wishing she could sit down and drink this whole episode from her mind. XX. Naruto, Anko and Micah arrived at Tazuna's house to find Hinata sparring with Haku. They had discovered that Haku relied on her bloodline ability too much and her taijutsu needed a lot of work. Hinata had agreed to help her as she felt that the ice user would benefit more from a style similar to the Hyuga family's own, and started teaching her. Hey, Naruto called out. They paused. Aren't you supposed to be preparing the traps? Haku asked, sweat dripping down her face. Already done. We've got shadow clones watching the road and came back too. Micah stopped speaking when Sakura rushed to the house and across the pier and into the house, closing the door with a slam. What the hell was that? XX. Daylight found the ninja watching the road. Anko, Naruto and Micah would be the front line. Tsunade was with Hinata and Haku while Sakura had been left behind, a decision made Tsunade. She had been ordered to watch over the house and the clients. Tsunade had said something to her that had her cry some more. The pink-haired girl had refused to tell the others what had upset her the night before. Here they come, Micah said as his and Naruto's clones they set up as spotters vanished and they got the images in their heads. Prepare for battle, Tsunade ordered them. Now or never, she thought and prayed that they made it through this alive. The battle for Wave was short and bloody. Gato and his mercenaries were no match for Ninja, even if they were genin. Team 7 under Tsunade's command stayed to protect Wave until the bridge had been built and they were able to hire samurai to protect their lands and the bridge, which they called Hope. Team 7 returned to Konoha, where they entered the Chunin exams a month later. Micah and Naruto subdued Gaara before he reached the tower after meeting him prior to the exam, and they rushed him to Jiraiya and had him fix the seal. From Gaara they learned of the Sonata Photo invasion, and the Hokage had assassination teams remove the waiting army a mile away from Konoha. It was discovered that Orochimaru was posing as the Kazekage and he retreated before Obito, Kakashi and Rin when he tried to attack the Hokage during the third part of the exam. Naruto along with Hinata left with Jiraiya for training, leaving Micah to learn from Tsunade. Sakura learned from Anko and Rin, and the fox cubs Aya and Maya became her partners. During the next 3 years saw a lot of changes in Konoha. Itachi returned with the heads of 8 S-rank criminals and word that his ancestor Madara Uchiha was alive and looking for the tailed demons. Kakashi, Obito and the returned Itachi named Team Sharingan went on the offensive and hunted Madara down, keeping the clan founder on the run and away from his tasks of collecting the beasts. Haku and Anko began dating, much to the disappointment of many of the men around Konoha. Kushina was named the 5th Hokage as Sarutobi knew he needed a replacement he could trust, and his 2 loyal students threatened to burn Konoha to the ground for the treatment of the godchildren over the years. Kushina's first act was the elimination of the council's power. The civilian council was disbanded and 3 members were kept on to do the paperwork of the Hokage. The clan council met once a month and only to advise the Hokage on matters, and anything else would be dealt with. Hinata became the proud big sister of a bouncing baby brother Hatake who was loved by his big sisters. Hinata and Naruto became married during the training trip, much to their parents' annoyance, and Jiraiya paid for it dearly with a beating to end all beatings by Kushina and Hitomi gave him. Mika and Sakura dated off and on for the next 3 years until Mika met Gaara's older sister Temari again during a joint mission. Sakura remained Mika's best friend after that and took the place of best person at his wedding to Temari when they were 18. Underverse and the real world never crossed, and Kami was happy as the crossings never happened, which in turn never allowed power plays and she got time to play skee ball. The end. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.